You are tuned into the Greatest Asset Community Podcast. I'm your host, Frederick Middlebrooks, and in this episode, I want to forewarn you, there are going to be some statements that I'm going to make that may seem politically motivated or politically driven in one direction or the other. I assure you they are not. As a matter of fact, I will go ahead and tell you now, I do not support either party, Republican or Democrat. I don't believe that either of them have all of the answers to turn our nation in a better direction that it needs to go in. I believe that's only going to come from the Bible. I think that's only going to come from our country turning back to Christ. That is where I place my allegiance and my belief. So I don't back either party. Having said that, there are some things that I'm going to make that are just factual statements. And I know some people are going to take those statements and pull them in one direction or the other. Oh, he supports this side. He supports. They're just statements of fact. And so let's jump on into it. If you work a job and you are a W-2 employee, odds are that you do not own the company that you work for, meaning that whoever you work for dictates when you go to work, how long you work, what you do while you're at work, and when you get off of work, as well as dictating how much you get paid for the work that you do. So there is a lot that is controlled by the company that you work for, essentially. I was going to say the company that owns your time, because in a sense, they kind of do when you give them your time in exchange for the money that they give you. But there is a lot of control that the company has in terms of what it is that you do within that time frame that they have you. I start off there to say that, to paint the foundation rather, that ownership is something that we've kind of moved away from in our society, particularly when it comes to home ownership, and for good reason. There's been a huge increase in the housing prices recently that have pushed home ownership out of the affordable range for many people in our country, to the point to where a lot of people have decided, you know what, it's not even worth pursuing trying to be a homeowner. However, I really want to encourage you to try and still make home ownership a priority for you. And there are a lot of reasons why. If you just look at some of the videos in my channel, particularly the home finance hacks that I did this past Tuesday, go back and watch that. It's titled, I think, something like $1 million opportunity you're missing, something along those lines. But just go back and look at the most recent home finance hacks broadcast that I did. I dig really deep into just a lot with the benefit of ownership. But having said that, diving back into it, if you are renting a home, that landlord is determining how much you're going to pay for rent. They are also in control of the maintenance and upkeep of that property. So if there's some things that you want to change or some things that need to be upkept a little bit better, you're kind of at the mercy of the landlord to take care of those things. If there are some changes that you want to make to the property, you're at the mercy of the landlord's rules and regulations that they have set in place. Maybe you're not allowed to paint your property. Maybe you're not allowed to. There are some properties where you're not even allowed to hang stuff on the walls or put holes in the walls to hang stuff on the walls. I'll put it that way. There are some other regulations with things that you can and can't do because it's not your property. That property belongs to a company or an individual, and that individual has set rules in place to help them better maintain and keep their costs low. So when you don't own it, you give up some of that control that you have. Now, I want to shelf that for just a moment and dive into a conversation about taxes. There is a lot of conversation swirling on both sides of the fence when it comes to taxes. This is what I'm going to say. There's a lot of talk about increasing taxes on the rich and the wealthy. Now, I believe that there is a benefit to paying taxes in terms of, obviously, the taxes help fund the military that provides protection for us. The taxes help fund a lot of the public service that we use, whether it's firefighters. I have a brother who's a firefighter, whether it's police officers. There's, some common good that everybody benefits from the collection of taxes. But I believe we can all agree there's a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse that happens with our taxpayer dollars as well. And we see that all the time. Now, when it comes to increasing taxes for the rich and the wealthy, this is what I'm going to say concerning that. When you increase taxes on the rich and the wealthy, that ball trickles downhill. Let's go back to the example of the apartment. Let's say you live in an apartment and your landlord is rich or wealthy. And you say, you know what, we're going to increase the taxes on the top, 1% earners, 2% earners, whatever in the country. So you increase the taxes and your landlord falls in that category. So you increase the taxes on your landlord. Now, what do you think is the more likely scenario? That your landlord is going to, out of his pocket, pay this increase that's now been levied upon him in taxes? Or is it more likely that the landlord says, okay, my taxes have been increased, let's just say $200,000, $500,000, 1 point something mil, whatever it is, I'm going to divide this up and increase the rents on the tenants to help cover all of this increase. The latter is the more likely option that landlord is going to take. As a landlord, and I'm not a landlord of, a major apartment complex or anything, but as a landlord and someone who also speaks with a lot of real estate investors, whether they own single family homes, duplexes, quadruplexes, whatever, when taxes increase on the property, that increase passes on to the tenant that's actually living in the property. The landlord's not the one living in the property, the tenant is. And so if the taxes have increased on that property, then that tenant is going to be the one that's ultimately going to be paying for that increase. If the taxes increase on the landlord and now the landlord's filling it more in their pockets, they're going to increase taxes on wherever they collect from so that it can help pay for that increase. Now let's take it from the business aspect, because we started off talking about that W-2 employee whose time is controlled by that employer. Let's say, for example, that wages have to go up, or let's say, for example, let's stick with taxes. Let's say that taxes get increased on that employer. And now that employer is having to spend more money, or is costing that employer more money to be able to conduct business. How does that employer compensate for that? Well, there are a couple ways. One, they can decrease the workforce, which means people are going to lose their jobs. Or two, they can increase the cost of the goods and services that they provide. And the increase of the cost of those goods and services is something that now is, again, getting passed along to the consumer. So whereas you have this instance where taxing the wealthy because they can afford to pay it makes sense for people who don't have the money or people who aren't in that category, I want you to think that, okay, if I tax someone who owns, the apartment I live in, owns the company that I'm working at, if I'm charging them more money, the wealthy are going to find a way to either avoid the taxes or to pass that buck along to someone who's not wealthy, because that's where they're getting the money from. So they're either going to, again, find a way to avoid it, or they're going to say, you know what, we need to increase the cost of our goods. We need to increase the cost of our services. We need to do something so that we can increase our income. Yes, a lot of people think, oh, they've got so much. Yep, but they're going to do something to increase the income so that they're not just taking this huge tax hit. Again, not a political statement. It just is what it is. And I want you to start looking and thinking from things as an owner, because I want all of you all to be owners. I don't want you to continue to just live throughout the remainder of your life on this earth as, a borrower or as a renter. I want you to become an owner of something. Even if you are more of a person that lives in one location and then you move around every couple years from location to location, and you're like, because I move so frequently, I really don't see a benefit to me owning a home. You can own a home even though you move around frequently, because you don't have to sell that home. You can buy a home, live in it for the couple years that you're there, but then when you get ready to leave, you can rent that home out, and now you have someone else paying your mortgage. So that someone else is still helping you to grow your wealth and build equity, because that home is appreciating on average year over year. And that's helping to increase your net worth, increase the amount of equity that's in the home. But the mortgage is actually being paid by the tenant that's living in that property. So start thinking of some different ways that you can kind of set up your life, set up yourself to be more of an owner instead of always being in the position of a renter who's beholden to or at the mercy of an owner who's dictating what you can do and can't do on a property, how much you're going to have to pay to live there and everything. There's always going to be taxes and insurance. I know there's one thing that a lot of people talk about when they talk about ownership. They're like, oh, but now you have the maintenance and the upkeep and the taxes and the insurance. Guess what? When you're a renter, you pay the maintenance, the upkeep, the taxes, and the insurance. You just don't see the maintenance, upkeep, taxes, and insurance in those individual columns. You see one rent payment. But if taxes and insurance increase, your rent will also increase. If maintenance and upkeep, the cost of maintenance and the cost of upkeep increase, your rent will also increase, or there will be some other amenities or some other things that are going to be tacked on to your rent. Maybe now you're going to have to pay an extra $10 or an extra $15 for, something else on that your apartment complex is providing. Part of that is to increase the cash flow and the income for the apartment complex. So again, eventually you're going to end up paying all of those things anyways. So since you're going to pay it anyways, why not own the home? Why not benefit from the increase in the equity of the home, since you're already going to be paying the taxes, you're already going to be paying the insurance, you're already going to be covering the cost of the maintenance and the upkeep. And I'm going to tell you another reason that you can believe that you cover the cost of the maintenance and the upkeep is because if you look at an apartment complex, the income that they get is pretty much all rental income and, all of the other amenities that might come on that with that apartment complex. Maybe there's laundry facilities. Maybe you're paying extra for garage space or storage space, or maybe you're paying for trash pickup or whatever. But all of that stuff, that's all the income that they get. That income provides enough revenue for that apartment complex to not only pay for all of the employees that work there, but to pay for all of the work that gets done in that apartment complex, and to provide them with cash flow to where now they're also making money off of it as well. So with the taxes, the maintenance, the upkeep, all of that stuff, it is a profitable endeavor for them to do that. Now, what I'm saying is that why not, since you're going to be paying the taxes, the maintenance, the upkeep, the insurance, why not go ahead and just own the property? Benefit from the 3 to 4% appreciation on average year over year for that home or that duplex or that quadruplex. Benefit from being able to do what you want to do with your own place because you own the home. Now, obviously, if you live in an HOA might have a little bit of something to say about some things, but you can also get a home that's not in the HOA and you can kind of just do your thing. But, in any case, there are a lot of benefits to ownership. And again, I want to encourage you to go listen to the episode this past Tuesday that the live broadcast from this past Tuesday. It's in the Home Finance Hacks playlist. And listen to it. I think, like I said, I think it's like $1 million opportunity that you're missing. And is really going to spell out some of the things that you truly might be missing when it's coming to home ownership, because I point out some statistics, some facts based on the Government Accountability Office that they released earlier this year, and why so many homes, I'm talking single family homes, in addition to other types of residential property as well, have been bought up by investors. They are seeing the value in this. And if you are missing the value, you need to go listen to that episode and just start getting yourself in the mindset of doing what is what it's going to take for you to be an owner so that you can start building that net worth. You can start building that equity. You can start building yourself up to be in a more stronger, stable position that's really going to help you and your family moving forward. So that's what I have for you. Short and sweet, but very important for you to understand just kind of the economics of how everything works. Again, not a political thing, but there are some things with increases in taxes that when things get increased, it's going to affect you on the lower end, because the people that the increase is coming on, if that increase is coming on the people at the top end, they're going to find a way to either duck and dodge that increase, or they're going to find a way to push that buck along to you. If taxes are getting cut one way, that's something you also need to look out for as well. Not going to get into that in this episode, but if taxes are getting cut, that means that some programs are getting cut, something else is getting cut, or the money that's now been cut has got to come from somewhere else in order to make up for it if everything's going to stay the same. And as you know, we're in like over $35 trillion worth of debt. That money's coming from somewhere, or they're printing it out of thin air. But in any case, thank you for taking the time to tune in. Hopefully it's been helpful and beneficial, at least if nothing else, helping you to reshape your perspective around ownership and how you can help better position yourself to move forward. So that's what I have for you. Thank you for your attention. Take care. Be blessed. Join us on Home Finance Hacks Tuesdays. I've got Tuesday at 7 p.m. I've got a lot of stuff that I put out that's really, really beneficial, and I think you would really enjoy it, learn a lot from it, and grow from it as well. So take care. Be blessed. We'll see you in the next episode.